don't know.
Hey, call Divine Prospect real quick.
Divine Prospect.
Call him real quick.
Okay, I call Divine Prospect. These are drive-bys. We don't buy these motherfuckers.
Hey, look at Michael Edwards in the chat now. Michael Edwards in the chat. Yo, let him have it in the chat, y'all. Let him have it. Yo, Michael Edwards did not answer the question. He refused to say yes. He refused to say no. He pretty much said, maybe so. I don't know what he said. He didn't even say maybe. You should be ashamed of yourself, Mike. Now go do your study and come back and see if you could do a better job. Because talking about something else.
All right, hey, Brother Divine, I want to let you know you got the right to hang up quick if you want to. Nav, I just want to ask you one quick question that I asked you, and I want it on the record. And I want to ask you about Jonah and the fish. That's all.
Hey, remember, Divine. Hey, peace to the. Hold on, real quick, son. Peace to the brother Divine. I just wanted to say what up to him before you go into your build. Peace to the brother Divine.
Oh,
peace.
that's good.
Hey, I'm doing good, King. Yo, I like the info you've been disseminating when you was going at because I know they being ignorant as hell, and you was putting a lot of powerful information forth. I commend you for that powerful information. You was busting their ass, in my opinion. But anyway, in another conversation, you have every right to hang up. What we're not going to do is record you without you knowing. We on live, and you can hang up immediately if you do not want to answer if a whole fish actually swallowed a whole man, according to the Bible, Jonah chapter 1, verse 17. Be it a whale, mammal, whatever. It was a water creature. Did a whole fish swallow a whole man? Yes or no? Is it possible to get is this a real fish that swallowed a real man and that man stayed in that fish for 3 days and came out unsinged, unscathed, undigested, just thrown up and went home back to his family? Is this true or false? Can such a thing even happen?
All right, so the first question you asked is a yes or no. I'm going to say I don't know. I have no clue if that's historically accurate or not. And that's what I had shared with Sonetta. What I told him is what's most important to me in regards to me identifying as an Israelite is the cultural significance of why that was even placed there in the literature in the first place, which is to teach a principle to the people so that way they continue to know what their ancestors wanted them to do when making certain decisions. The second thing you asked me, is that even possible? I don't know if that's possible or not. I have not seen that recorded anywhere. I can't verify it, so I'm not going to sit here and blindly tell you or anybody else that, yes, that's 100% fact. I don't know.
Okay, so let me ask you this real quick. Go ahead.
No, hold up, Polight.
Go ahead.
I want to say that I respect this brother to the utmost, and I told you that's why he's totally different from all these other Hebrews. He didn't give us a whole taking us around Brooklyn and Jersey and then taking us back down south. He went directly and said, well, you know what? I can't tell you because I don't know. I can't, and you got to respect that. Whereas these other dudes would try to do all kind of crazy shit to prove their point, even though they know that shit was bullshit and they know they wrong. So I respect Divine's answer.
Hey, Divine, now let me ask you this, Divine. If you don't know if the fish actually existed, how do you know the purpose of the story if you don't know if the fish actually existed? Like, if one knew the fish existed, then I could understand the premise that you understand the significance of it being written. But if you don't know if the fish existed, how can you be sure the reason why this was written in the first place if you don't even know if it's a true or a false story?
Well, technically speaking, something could be historical fiction, right?
Okay.
Or something can be written in regards to being a literary device to teach a message to a people.
Totally
understand. In any ancient culture, right? In Mesopotamia, in Kemet, in West Africa, where certain things that's in the environment that people are able to identify, and they say, hey, okay, well, what's the best way to convey to our future generations that if the patron deity who we covenant with had put you on a mission to accomplish something, at what odds will you be willing to turn away from it, and what circumstances could possibly happen to you? So it was a teaching tool, and that's why the text was written, in order for people to understand that when you're called or assigned to do something, you have to do your best to follow through to it and commit to it, because otherwise,
so Divine,
something as grave as being eaten by a fish can happen to you. And again, we see this motive in plenty of other ancient cultures as well. It's not unique to ancient
No,
Israel.
hold on, Divine, slow down. How do we know it's a teaching tool if we don't know if this was a written account of something that actually happened? You may not have caught. I heard what you said, but if you are saying it's a teaching tool, I would believe you're saying that this never happened. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying, but see, things also can be folk tales. Things can be folklore. Things could be something that was passed down to say, hey, this is what happens. It could be a myth. Something can have an ounce of truth, but then be exaggerated for the purpose of teaching a message to a particular person or group of people. This is, again, techniques that were used in several other cultures as well. This is ancient Near Eastern literature.
All right, so let me ask the question differently. Let me ask the question differently. Have you come to the conclusion that this was merely a teaching tool, meaning this was not a legitimized story, but a story that's told so it could reveal a sign? Did you come to the conclusion yourself? And how might one be able to arrive at the same conclusion? Or is it purely subjective and at the discretion of each reader to assume if it is true or false?
Yeah, so what I would say is what you said, a lot of what you said as far as coming to discretion, it is up to the discretion of the reader to interpret what has been handed down to them.
Okay.
Right? In order for you to properly put into context what the message is again, you have to look at it objectively in the light of other ancient Near Eastern literature and see what are certain things. I'll give you an example, right?
Okay.
If you look in Mesopotamia, right, Mesopotamian culture, there's a book that's out right now, and it does a comparative and analytical study of ancient age cultures in regards to myths, in regards to folk tales, folklore, and I can send Senator the link or email it to you if you want it. And what they do is that they put ancient Israel in the same context with other ancient Near Eastern cultures, and they look at the certain, let's say, messages or stories or narratives, and they compare the narratives and say, okay, well, during this period of time, and if we're talking about Jonah, this is during the Assyrian situation, so I will put it about the 8th century BCE. What other narratives and comparative cultures can we look at and see what elements that this story contains that we see elsewhere? And we see a lot of different similarities in other Canaanite, Mesopotamian, and ancient Kemetic cultures, that things that they will use as teaching tools that they were familiar with in their environment. I'll give you an example. In Nineveh, if you know where that's located, it's not far from the sea area. As you know, also, there's a deity called Dagon that is there, which is the fish deity of the Philistines or anybody along that region right there. So it was known from people back then that if you were to, stretch out too much into the sea, because again, sea or yam was something that was treacherous and something that was unstable, and you happened to disappear, it was believed that a great whale or a great fish ate and swallowed you up. So if that was to happen to a person who was to turn away from a divine assignment, then they could say, well, wow, this will be a great teaching tool in order to share with our community to say, hey, look, these are the consequences that can occur to you if you've been given an assignment and you decide not to commit to it, because the people you have to give the message to are people that you hate. And therefore, it becomes a teaching tool. So a lot of people, when they look at the text, they take everything literally point for point for point, and that's their prerogative if they choose to interpret it that way. For me, the most important thing is the cultural significance in the narrative and what it teaches us today, that when we apply it, we can yield the same results.
Okay, my brother. Well, I don't want to be redundant. I totally appreciate how you communicated that process, and that's what I will say for that without being redundant. But I do appreciate your answer far above and beyond, let's say, Michael Edwards, because he was just completely ridiculous. And Divine is bringing us a lot more perspective, and that we can appreciate. However, I want to say this to you. I understand everything you're talking about, doing a comparative study or analysis of other cultures and communities to see if we see a recurring theme here. All of that makes sense. I agree with that, with the exception of this part. If I want to just find out if this fish was real, that swallowed a whole human being for 3 days, and then after those 3 days, that human being comes out unscathed, unsinged, undigested, and ready to walk home back to his family. if someone tells me I need to read other stories to see if I could find out this is true, I'm going to look at them weird. But if you say, brother, I don't believe that happened, I believe that this is an account or a sign that we could just learn from, I get it. But I don't believe they both can exist at the same time. I don't believe a person could tell me I don't know if this fish is real. However, this is an account that we can learn from, because I don't know if I could learn from that account if I don't know if that fish is real. However, I do understand what you're saying, because if a man was given a mission, I heard what you said real quick.
Wait, hold on.
I'm going to let you go.
Okay, go ahead.
I heard what you said about, let's say the fish is real and that man was given a mission, and in light of him not fulfilling that mission, we can now look at that and reflect on it. So whether he's real or not, we still can see the sign. I want you to know I heard everything you're saying. I'm just telling you how I conclude, what the conclusion I come to. But I get it. I hear what you're saying, and I respect what you're saying more than everyone else. Though we really just trying to get to the bottom of, can a Hebrew tell us if this damn fish is real or not? Now, we've been given a pseudo account of it being a bluefin tuna. So we pulled it up to see what the bluefin tuna eats. And apparently the bluefin tuna doesn't eat human beings. It eats herring and small fish. And then we also showed the picture of the bluefin tuna. And there's also a fraudulent picture circulating of the bluefin tuna, which I believe circulated by biblical subscribers. But that's neither here or there, because we had to get Mike out of here because he was just over talking and being obnoxious, but that's what he does. Mike, I love you.
What I'm gonna say is this.
Ridiculous.
What I'm gonna say is this. What you're saying, I understand your point. What I do want to say is that also you got to keep into account the historical context, right?
Yes.
Historically speaking, if you were back then, it would be a different story, right? Because you would not have the degree of science that we have today to make a logical assumption to say, okay, well, maybe it's not possible that that can happen. I mean, I know the elders are saying this. I know they're teaching this to us. But matter of fact, let me go and investigate this matter to see if this is true. That wasn't the mindset back then, because where we live at today, so much history has occurred and endeavors in regards to science that the people wouldn't challenge or ask these questions or do any kind of comparative analysis with other cultures like we do today, and or even look at the zoology. And look at to see what's in the Mediterranean Sea to see if that's even possible. Like what data that we can pull from zoologists to tell us, hey, is this even possible that an animal like this exists? What is the skeletal record saying here from anything that we've examined that either washed up on the shore or things that we've seen that we can actually substantiate? So because we didn't have the same mind we have today back then, you can better understand why a person would take that 100% to be literal, because they didn't have the same devices we have today to do that type of analytical research and to determine whether or not, oh yeah, this really happened, and or, well, you know what, this is simply a teaching tool.
Understood.
That's all I want to add to that.
No, I understand. Yeah. I believe most of humanity, whether that time or now though, understands something about digestion, because we did see medical records, whether it be on papyrus, whether it be on the walls, or whether it was by those who were entrusted to do the recording. And I believe ancient peoples up into present day can presume, outside of people who subscribe to scripture, that if anything is alive, it has some form of digestive system, and things normally don't go in and come completely out without not being deformed or even alive, especially not a whole human. I don't think anything's ever been documented on planet Earth, unless you can correct me or any other Hebrew could correct me. I don't think nothing on planet Earth has ever swallowed a whole human being for 3 days inside of its digestive system and come back out alive, whole and alive after those 3 days. I don't know if any organism has existed inside of any other organism's digestive system for 3 whole days, and come back alive those 3 whole days to fly or talk about it or walk right after. So that's why I would completely nullify that concept. But again, you were very forthcoming, so I will not ridicule you like I have to ridicule Brother Michael Edwards. Perhaps you should review his record, and then you'll understand what we're talking about. But
I didn't hear nothing.
It's love.
So I don't even know what on right now. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. I mean, you kept it 100.
You know, we've been passing Michael Edwards the ball for damn near all this week, and he's been double dribbling and walking with the ball and throwing the ball away. I don't know what the hell is wrong with him. He's been bouncing the ball out of bounds, talking about, no, it's good, I'm in bounds. Like, what the hell is wrong with Michael?
He traveling, talking about he Euro stepping. Yo, Sa, can you?
That's my brother. You know what I'm saying? I mean, me and him don't really build like that.
Oh, we could tell.
But he's a good brother. But he's gonna have his perspective, and you know it's gonna vary amongst the Israelite community.
Oh, okay. So, Sa, can you call? Yo, Divine, I want to thank you again for sharing. Cause I know you didn't have to share, and I respect your time because I'm sure you probably was doing something and had no intention or anticipation, I should say. So I respect the time that you gave us. And the insight you gave us, because you did your community a service without sounding crazy. You know what I'm saying? So thank you. You know what I'm saying?
All right,
but let me say this to you. Hold on, let me say this to you. Do you want me to do a presentation on this?
That'd be mighty cool too, you know?
Yeah, but we can do it live on my show.
Yeah, that'd be smart.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, hell yeah, let's do it. Let's get it.
Yeah, that's a dope idea.
I'll let you know when it's ready, all right?
All right, no doubt. Peace, brother.
Man, he might be the Hebrew Messiah.